Welcome to the Magic Kingdom, the most magical place on Earth. With so many amazing things to do and so many wonders to explore, the attractions are where it's at. Iconic rides like Pirates of the Caribbean, Carousel of Progress, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and Tron Light Cycle Run make this tourist destination a hotspot for both children and adults alike. However, one ride can only be described as the poster child of rides within the borders of Magic Kingdom, and that's Dumbo the Flying Elephant! Today, we're going deep into the heart of Storybook Circus to ride Dumbo the Flying Elephant, and to discover the ins and outs of what make this ride so memorable for everyone's visit. Not only that, but I've developed a 4-stage challenge to see exactly how many Dumbos I can ride. That's right. From park open to park close, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., these 4 goals are as follows. Number 1, try to ride Dumbo 15 times. I made a video back in May of last year to see how many times I could ride Dumbo before heading to my reservation at 1. I started roughly at 9:45 and ended up riding 14 times by 12:30. So, obviously, I'm going in and trying to do better than my first attempt by giving myself 12 hours. Number 2, try to ride each Dumbo within the attraction. There are a total of 33 Dumbos here, each with a number assigned to them. I'm attempting to ride each one at least once, showing off exactly how it operates and expressing my thoughts on the experience later in this video. Number 3, try to ride Dumbo 48 times. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., that makes up 720 minutes in the whole day that I have to ride. According to websites like ThrillData.com, QTimes.com, and of course DisneyFoodBlogs.com, the average wait time for Dumbo is roughly 15 minutes. Splitting up that 720 minutes into 15-minute increments would lead me to riding an average of 48 times. With the wait time increasing and decreasing throughout the day, we can only assume that 48 might either be an easy feat or a difficult one. Number 4, finally, I'm going to try and ride Dumbo 100 times within the day. It's a challenging feat to practically double my average of 48, but I'm shooting high because I have faith in a slow morning and a slow night. Now, before I start, I want to preface that I do not speak for the brand, nor do I speak for the company. The information provided is strictly what I've noticed and been told by the cast members, and from my past and present knowledge of the attraction. As I started my day off, I spent way too long trying to describe my plan for the day in the back of Storybook Circus, with no script and people watching me. Note that I've never vlogged before, so the eyes watching me as I blabbed about this challenge were a bit uncomfortable at first. Because of this vicious combination of having to restart and trying to come up with what I was going to say, I eventually ended up saying what I needed to say at 9:08 a.m. before finally making my way to the ride itself. Unfortunately, I also spent too long trying to film how the queue works. That pushed my start time further and further back, but that's an important part of this video. So, here we have the front of the attraction. As you can see, Magic Kingdom has 2 lines you can either go through. There's the standby lane over to the right, and then there is the lightning lane to the left. To start off, I'll take the standby lane, because that is the lane that most people take. That way we can gauge exactly how the queue works. This is the beginning of the standby lane. The standby lane is another term for the regular line. You'll often hear people calling it the regular lane or the normal lane. This just indicates that it's not the lightning lane that people pay for. So it's the free and cheaper option that most people decide to wait through. Now, if we keep making our way down the standby lane, you'll notice a sign above the door that reads, "This way to Dumbo." I understand that it can get a little confusing because oftentimes the queue looks to be short from the outside. I mean, after all, I did walk through this outside lane pretty fast, but there is also a line inside the tent. If that's the case, this sign right here indicates that if I enter through the door, I will eventually be riding Dumbo. As I get inside, there's a giant labyrinth of ropes. At peak times of the day, this is also part of the standby lane. And if you choose to go through the standby lane, you're naturally going to end up waiting within these ropes. However, in these moments right here, right now, it's still 9 o'clock, so the line is not too long, and we can make our way around this labyrinth. As we keep walking, we'll eventually be stopped by a cast member who will inform us exactly which way to go, right or left. So as you walk your way through the standby lane, you'll either be directed left or right. Now, if you took the lightning lane, you'd also be led right or left. You remember at the front of the attraction, there were 2 Dumbos on both sides. One was on the right, and then one was on the left. So take that idea, and we're going to use it for another visual, okay? So think of it like the letter X, okay? On the lower halves of the X is going to be the standby lane entrance, and then on the other side is going to be the lightning lane entrance. Everyone's going to make their way up till they reach the cast member in the center area, where they'll be informed where to go to next. So while you're waiting in this centralized area, the cast member will then send them up the upper halves of the X, where they'll make their way either to the left Dumbos, or they're going to make their way to the right Dumbos. Since it wasn't too busy, the cast member let me decide which side I wanted to go on. And so I chose to start the challenge going onto the left side, where the first Dumbo would be located. Now, as I waited for my turn to ride, the sun started to peek out from the clouds, and the warmth began to creep in. When I walked into the park, it wasn't that bad. But as the light started to shine into my eyes, I knew it could very well turn out to be a hot day. As I made my way to the Dumbo of my choice, I decided to choose the Dumbo with the number 1 on it. Dumbo the Great! To start my challenge off right. I buckled in because, safety begins with me, and immediately got asked what I was doing by a cast member. I informed them that I was going to be riding Dumbo all day and that I chose the number 1 Dumbo as my first ride. She expressed how glad she was that she got to be the first Dumbo of the day. It was rewarding to have the cast members cheering me on at the beginning of my journey. Now, before we left off, I want to show you the lever right here in front of you. Okay? This lever is what makes Dumbo fly. You can either lift and hold it to go up, or you can lift and hold it to make it go down. Do not wiggle it.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
If you wiggle the lever, nothing will happen. When you walk through the queue, as you sit down in your chosen Dumbo, and during the flight, Timothy Q. Mouse will give you the directions you need to lift and hold the lever.
To make Dumbo fly higher, lift and hold the lever in the up position. Thank you and enjoy the ride on Dumbo!
Now, for clarification so you don't embarrass yourself, here's a thorough definition of the words he uses. The word lift, according to the Webster Dictionary, is to raise from a lower to a higher position. This means the lever will be in a neutral position before you fly, and it is your job to adjust the lever's position from that neutral state to a higher state. Additionally, Timothy instructs you to hold the lever. The Webster Dictionary says the definition for the word hold is to have or maintain in the grasp. You're already grasping the lever in that up position. So if you maintain that contact, your Dumbo will surely move according to Timothy's instructions. So, as I'm riding the Dumbo, I do realize that as soon as it starts, it raises all by itself for a second or two without me even touching it. It's basically showing the rider that stepping off of this is not recommended at this point. For logistical purposes, I take this during my challenge and I ponder Timothy's instructions.
To make Dumbo fly higher, lift and hold the lever in the up position. Lift and hold the lever, lift and hold the lever, lift and hold the lift and hold the
and I dissect the words lift and hold, meaning that if I just lift the lever, nothing was going to happen. If I wiggle the lever, nothing was going to happen. The key word was hold. So, because of this, I decided to time how long I needed to hold the lever to make it go up after Dumbo raised by himself. Naturally, because Dumbo has that small moment where it rises from the ground so no one can step off of it, I needed to start my timer from the point I was in control of Dumbo's movements. Once you reach the top, it's smooth sailing. You get to relax and enjoy the scenery of the nearby area and the few spectacles of Magic Kingdom, like the castle in the back. Depending on the weather, it's truly a relaxing experience. After some time, all of the Dumbos rose in unison. The people who chose not to make their Dumbo move, or those who didn't listen to Timothy, began to reach the sky for a victory lap before lowering. As Dumbo reaches the end, it's important to continue to be safe and stay buckled and seated until you hear the Dumbos make a low locking noise to signal that Dumbo has finished moving. This sound right here. When I got off the ride, I realized that the crowds were starting to grow and the standby lane was beginning to form a line inside the tent. I ended up standing in line and I waited to be placed on the respective side that the cast member sent me to. At this point, slight panic began creeping up in the back of my neck because I originally expected it to be pretty calm within Storybook Circus for the first few hours as everyone was heading to the big ticket rides. With the crowds growing and the line extending, I began to worry about how many of my goals would be manageable. A few minutes later, I finally made it to my second Dumbo of the challenge.
Dumbo the Great!
I got inside, buckled up because safety is important, and I was ready to go. As my Dumbo began to rise, I waited for Dumbo to give me my time to shine, and I lifted that lever. Once I figured out exactly how long it took to rise, I let go, and Dumbo stopped. I noted that if you stop lifting and holding the lever, Dumbo stops rising. But knowing what Timothy had taught me, I lifted and I held that lever, and I continued to rise until I reached the top. Like I said earlier, despite the weather being a little warm, the air from the ride was very refreshing, and it helped me realize something very important. The standby lane was way too long, and I was going to take the lightning lane instead to show you how that side operated, cutting my time shorter. Quick like lightning. Don't laugh. That was a really bad joke. That was a very bad lightning lane joke. I made it through the empty line and made it to the centralized area where I was going to be led to next. Since the standby lane had a good number of people and I was the only one in lightning lane, the cast member took a few groups from that line and sent them to the right side. Now, just because I had lightning lane doesn't mean I was automatically entitled to being first. It just meant that my time was going to be reduced, and I didn't have to wait in that labyrinth of ropes that made up the standby lane. I was soon sent through the right side, and led to the other side of the Dumbos, where I was soon instructed by Timothy on how my Dumbo experience was going to play out.
Children, old ages, welcome, one and all. Before you lift off, please remember to place small shoes for the inside. Everyone should remain fully seated and buckled underneath the seatbelt throughout the entire flight. To make Dumbo fly higher, lift and hold the lever in the up position. Thank you and enjoy the ride on Dumbo!
I entered the ride area and selected my third Dumbo.
Dumbo the Great!
Before buckling it once again and getting ready for my flight. Like earlier, I waited for my Dumbo to let me have my time, and then I wiggled that lever as if Timothy just didn't tell me how to make Dumbo work. And guess what? Nothing happened. So I tried to move the lever and hold it for a small beat, with the impatience of a Sagittarius at the DMV. And guess what? Nothing happened. So, obviously, crazy thought, I decided to listen to the little rodent that was about to haunt my dreams for the next 11 hours, and I lifted and held the lever until something happened. Sure enough, I went up. When I came back through the lightning lane for the 4th time of the day, a small line started to form. After waiting a single minute, the line began to move, and we made our way to the left side. I want to point out that if you pay close attention over here, the labyrinth of ropes for the standby lane was finally in play, and the line had to be at least 25 plus minutes. But as lightning lane, I only waited that singular minute. Sure, people from standby lane made their way to their respected sides first, but I wasn't going to complain about having to wait 5 minutes, let alone 1 minute. At this point in time, I also wanted to point out that the Dumbo's rising when the... Can you imagine that, actually? Did you hear that word coming out of my mouth? Dumbo rising? Like, what if that's like a zodiac sign? Like, hey, yo, like, what's your zodiac sign? Oh, my zodiac sign? Yeah, I'm just like a Virgo sun and a Cancer moon, and I'm a Dumbo rising. Sorry, that was a tangent. So I just wanted to point out that when the Dumbos are rising before the person riding has that ability to control it themselves, you can see that they all go up a few feet before they stop rising. And that's the indication that that is when the rider can start lifting the lever. At 10:06, I made my way to the next Dumbo, choosing the closest one I could get into.
Dumbo the Great!
Once I got in, I buckled up for a safe flight and waited to rise once again. Making my way through the lightning lane once again, where I continue to go for the remainder of the day, a rancid smell of dirty diapers wafted under my nose. This was the moment of foreshadowing for what was going to happen for most of the day from this point on. As I continued down the left side, passing the standby line in the process, I noticed how the labyrinth of ropes began to grow further and further out the door. With the standby showing me that Dumbo wasn't going to get less crowded anytime soon, and my line moving at a slower pace than normal, worry once again prompted me to fear I wasn't going to hit my later goals. At 10:18, I made my way in, chose my 5th Dumbo,
Dumbo the Great!
buckled up, and then prepared for my flight. Once I got off, the wait time for the standby lane had reached 40 minutes, and I turned my attention to the right side Dumbos. It seemed maintenance was needed because something was wrong with this side's Dumbos. Making my way through the lightning lane, the line just grew further and further out the door because the side was not operating, feeling very reminiscent of how the standby lane looked. A couple of minutes passed and people started leaving, exiting due to the length of the lightning lane. But I wasn't gonna let a little delay ruin my experience. No, I was staying strong, pushing through. I was persevering. The line continued to grow longer and longer as more people began leaving. One by one, the line got smaller because of the people exiting. As I continued to watch things unfold, I started to piece things together that if there are people on the sides that needed repairs, they needed to go somewhere. In these situations, everyone will have to go to the other side, and that has to cycle through until both the standby lane and the lightning lane that I was in can continue. As the line slowly inched forward, I started to brace for a longer wait. Even while being in the lightning lane, with patience in my stride, I decided to use the time waiting wisely for a snack break, snack break, snack break, snack break. With a granola bar in my system, I was ready for whatever Dumbo was going to throw at me, including cast member Brian and cast member Marty, who was there for Dumbo number 1, both of whom seemed happy to be part of my journey. I finally made it to the gate after a 17-minute wait and eyed my next Dumbo. My granola bar energized body beamed straight to my target, only to have it taken by another group. But that's okay. That's okay though. Despite my angry fist clenched with fake rage, I cared more about getting a Dumbo that I hadn't already ridden.
Dumbo the Great!
Ride number 6, I continued back through the lightning lane, where even though the line did get longer than it was previously, I overheard that this side finally had been fixed, and they were ready for riders. Walking past me, it was the maintenance man, mallet in hand, as he drifted off backstage after saving the day. You know what? Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear a blue shirt holding a hammer.
He's gotta be strong and he's gotta be fast and he's gotta be fresh on the fight. I need a hero.
When I finally made it to the central spot, I started hearing children screaming amidst the music playing throughout the tent. Peering around the wall, I saw a player and a cast member. Yeah. If I've learned anything so far, the cast members have been incredibly supportive during this challenge. Their quirky happiness was extremely needed to push me through the day. Honestly, I don't think I could have continued without their support. And if you ever get the chance to go to any park or ride or resort in Walt Disney World, just remember that the cast members are humans too, and that they deserve that support as well. Anyway, so yeah, I saw the play area within the center that was at one point blocked off. This area, which we don't really get involved with much because Dumbo is the mission, appeared to be an obvious play area for children to enter while they were waiting the standby lane. Now, another important bit of information is how long the ride actually is. This key point, I believe, can help you decide when you want to come during the day. If you're up for waiting long periods for a shorter ride, reconsider and then come back sometime later when there aren't many people. Here's a real-time showing of how long the ride is. As the top of the hour started to approach, we finally made it to the next Dumbo.
Dumbo the Great!
I buckled up, gave my signature thumbs up, and got ready to fly. After riding, something happened deep within me. As I went through the line, I just started to feel tired. It was as if my body just wanted to give out. The heat from the day was really getting to me, and I felt drained. My water bottle was empty, and I just didn't know how to recover. Attempting to get back into the groove, I walked through the door that led me to the left side and immediately knew I wanted to ride the Dumbo right behind number 1 Dumbo. I wanted to ride number 2 and see if it was at all possible to hit them in order, or at least until I got to number 4 and moved to number 5. I noticed that they had put a cast member in the middle of the outside who was dividing groups to go on a shorter side and then that farther side that I was accustomed to. To get to the second Dumbo, all I needed was for them to push me into the closer side so I could make a beeline to the chosen Dumbo. Sure enough, woof, my prayers were answered and I made my way closer and closer to the Dumbo. Hope fueled my body and I danced to Timothy's voice. I and that Dumbo, I swear it was like fate. They opened the gate and everyone parted different ways, parting the Dumbo Sea, and the second Dumbo was directly in my path, and I did it. I made it to the Dumbo that I wanted.
Dumbo the Great!
Get ready to wiggle.
Getting off, I felt motivated to continue my streak and get to the third Dumbo. As I entered the tent, smelling children and seeing the angry standby frustrations, I asked myself an important question. Which side do we go? Walking through the right side, I continued onward, and then it hit me. Oh man, how could I forget? I was so distracted by my little game of which side was I gonna go on that I totally forgot that I wanted to ride Dumbo number 3. So I dealt with reality and moped over to a different Dumbo. Hey, at least it wasn't a Dumbo I had already ridden, but it just didn't feel the same.
Dumbo the Great!
Sitting in this new Dumbo, I sighed with acceptance before realizing that the cast member was waiting for me to buckle up. Since I almost forgot to buckle, I made sure to remind myself that wiggling the lever was not going to work, even if my insecurities were making me aggressive. And that Timothy always stated that to make Dumbo fly higher, I need to lift and hold the lever in the up position. Man, I'm haunted by that voice.
This man's seen the other side.
As 11:30 approached, I was once again sent to the right side. I thought that maybe there was a small chance my fate for getting Dumbo number 3 was just slightly off. But no. No, unfortunately, I was doomed to ride on the opposite side. Thankfully, I toughened up and dealt with it. I wasn't gonna cry like a baby. Babies belong in the play area, within the tent, not here. No, I was a man, doing manly things, like riding Dumbo all day. I don't know why I wrote that.
Dumbo the Great!
At 11:43, the wait time was just under 20 minutes, and the standby lane felt very vacant. Because of this, I was directed to the left side, boosting my mood. The sparse labyrinth was a good sign. Was it a good omen? Making my way to the gate, Dumbo number 3 appeared. Oh man, I finally had the chance to ride the Dumbo I wanted for the past 30 minutes. All I needed was to be placed in the closer line to make my way to Dumbo. Man, my eyes stayed focused on that Dumbo, the blue sheen attracting me to it. As I continued down, letting the cast member know that this challenge was a one-man adventure, I was led down the other side, pushing me further away from the Dumbo that I wanted. Making my way to the gate, I continued to keep my gaze on the Dumbo. I needed to keep an open mind. At least the Dumbo wasn't too far away from where I was placed. Once the gates opened, I made a beeline straight to the Dumbo, and to my surprise, no one battled me for it. It was finally mine.
Dumbo the Great!
11:51, I lifted the lever into the up position and I flew through the clouds, the wind blowing through my hair as I enjoyed my victory. Getting off the Dumbo, I decided to peek at the standby wait time, as it was looking a little slow inside. To my surprise, from the moment I got out of the tent to the front, the wait time jumped to 45 minutes. My curiosity to try and take the standby lane to see the play area diminished, and I decided to once again just take the lightning lane to push forward towards my 12th Dumbo of the day. Making my way to the center of the tent, I quickly noticed that the standby line was practically empty. I was confused. I was confused by the wait time being so long for such an empty queue. As I was directed by the cast member to continue down the left side, I noticed that the standby lane was completely empty. But hey, at least the cast members were still cheering me on. Arriving at the left side, my attention turned to the next Dumbo. So I rode number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. It was my time to aim for number 5. Despite my failed attempt to hit number 3, I desperately wanted to aim for number 5. My eyes remained glued to Dumbo as it circled around in the sky. As the Dumbos finally landed and the gates opened, I made my way to the opening when all of a sudden, a cast member asked if I could pick up a stray water bottle. Naturally, I decided to help the cast member out, but ultimately, it led to my demise, and the 5th Dumbo was taken as I walked through the gates. It was heartbreaking, but at this point I had grown accustomed to being let down because of Dumbo number 3.
Dumbo the Great!
Oh, fairest diet, Dr. Pepper, thou dost sit upon thy lofty perch, a beacon so bright, a sign of prosperity left behind by fate, to guide me on my journey and seal my state. I'm not entirely sure why, but after being graced by the can of Diet Dr. Pepper, I started feeling really good. The day just felt better, and it was an interesting 180 from the fatigue I had felt an hour and 15 minutes ago. I just felt refreshed, and not only that, I was able to be right at the gate, directly in line with number 5. With the gate opening, I quickly made it to Dumbo number 5.
Dumbo the Great!
Buckling up, I took in the sweet air of popcorn and mild success, ready for what was to come. For the next Dumbo, I was ready to finally hit my 15th Dumbo, finishing my first goal of the day. I wanted to make it special, so I decided to ride Dumbo number 15. Sure enough, I was placed in the exact line I needed to be in, a closer line to the teal Dumbo. I had my eyes on the prize, baby. Nothing was going to stop me this time. I had the Diet Dr. Pepper on my side. I had the cast member on my side. I tapped anxiously on the gate, waiting to finally hit my first goal as the cast member made his way over, opening the gate. Zipping through the people, I made my way to the 15th Dumbo, making sure nothing got in my way. I darted in a straight line, making it known this was the Dumbo I chose, but I was soon cut off and the Dumbo was taken. Okay then, so much for a meaningful checkpoint, because the Dumbo was no longer available. I trudged over to the next Dumbo and I looked down to find the next best thing compared to Dumbo number 15 for my 15th. A used Band-Aid. In lucky number 13.
Dumbo the Great!
Although the 15th ride was a less triumphant accomplishment, it's important to state that it was a bittersweet moment. I was happy to finally hit the goal, but saddened that it had to be Lucky 13, the name I feel like I'm permanently going to call this Dumbo. Oddly enough, as I sadly made my way forward without celebrating this gold, it hit me. Looking through my notes, things weren't adding up. I counted each Dumbo that I rode, okay? And it didn't add up to me about to ride my 16th Dumbo. It was adding up to me going to my 15th Dumbo. I was so gung-ho and excited about hitting my first goal that I thought I was already at the goal. The joy hit me suddenly, knowing that there might be another chance to get the 15th Dumbo for the 15th ride. Sure enough, the Holy Diet Dr. Pepper aided me in sending me to the very front of that gate. The cast member comes over, opened the gate, and I zoomed straight over to that teal Dumbo and slapped my hand on it, claiming it as the Dumbo I was riding.
Dumbo the Great!
I buckled up. I buckled up the seatbelt, gave my signature thumbs up, and celebrated, officially hitting 15 Dumbos and beating my last video. As I soared through the heavens at the stroke of 12:38, my heart ablaze with unbridled joy, I basked in the radiant glow of triumph. For I had achieved the unthinkable, conquering a feat of unyielding resolve. The memories of doubt and uncertainty, mere whispers of a bygone era, now seeming like distant echoes silenced by the thunderous roar of my success. Exactly 3 hours prior, the specter of defeat had loomed large, casting a shadow of doubt upon my aspirations, yet with unwavering determination I persevered. Spirit unbroken and my will unshaken. And now, as I gazed out upon the landscape, I knew that I had truly earned my place among the firmaments of champions. 15 times I had ridden the winds, each successive triumph a testament to my unyielding resolve. The rush of exhilaration coursing through my veins like liquid fire as I reveled in the sheer magnitude of my accomplishments. I had believed, I had soared, and I had emerged victorious. And then I decided it was time to eat. Before going right back at it again. Oh, Ferris Diet Dr. Pepper.